in the 5 subjects for frequent recollection chanting. The first line is, I am subject to aging, as is normal. Aging is unavoidable. The second line is, I am subject to illness, as is normal. Illness is unavoidable. The third line is, I am subject to death, as is normal. Death is unavoidable. We chant these 3 lines regularly. If you let, as is normal, decide that it's all normal, then wisdom is shut off and mental cultivation is over. Your life is worthless and you've hit a dead end, regardless of whether you are a monk or lay person. If you chant these verses and just consider it all to be normal, aging is normal, illness is normal, death is normal. Birth, aging, illness, and death are unavoidable. That's a worthless life. That is merely chanting. There isn't any mental cultivation, bhavana, yet. You've hit a dead end. Wisdom isn't exercised. It isn't used. You refuse to think. If you desire real results, you have to change your method. Cut the term normal out entirely. Don't use it. This is how you fix it. Cut normal out. What is normal? It is a word that makes you impotent. In simple terms, it is a word that disqualifies. For instance, your work is unfinished and you say, "Meh, I don't care," or something goes missing, or some cloth is dirty. The cloth is dirty, but you think, whatever, I'm not going to clean it. Look at that. That's where it leads. It immediately disqualifies it. Instead of taking that dirty cloth and washing it and finding some way to get it to be white and beautiful, you don't do that. You say, "I don't care." This is cutting off any effort. This is the same way. Assuming that I am subject to aging, as is normal, immediately disqualifies any further contemplation because you have already taken it to be normal. I am subject to aging, as is normal, so you refuse to think. I am subject to illness, as is normal, so you refuse to think. I am subject to death, as is normal, so you refuse to think of the how in death. How can you engender this passion, nibbida, and fear of your own death? You refuse to think about it further. You merely accept death. You accept that you are eventually going to die, so you just wait for it. This is someone who is worthless. It is someone who has no way of fixing themselves. In other words, it is someone who refuses to strive or find a way out. A person like this is worse than birds. A button quill is still better. How is a button quill better? When it wakes up, it pecks here and there. It pecks at the cage. Why? To try to escape. Even though it knows the cage is strong, it still pecks at it. It still strives. That is, it wants to get out. Unlike humans, we humans have simply accepted death and aren't willing to strive. We assume that death is normal, so we accept death. We aren't willing to strive. After you die in this rebirth, will you not die in your next rebirth? There is a way out, you know. Accept that this rebirth will be the last time that you die. As for the next rebirth, you will refuse to die. Can that be? Can you do that? Can you do what it takes to prevent it? You have to think about it further. Don't let normal block your wisdom. Don't do that. Now, as for these chanting verses, Everyone chants them. I chant them as well. But I'm not deluded like other people. Most people are deluded by these words. Taking, I am subject to death, to be normal, shuts off wisdom. You refuse to contemplate further. You don't progress. You simply accept death. You refuse to strive. You refuse to fix it. Now, the truth that is revealed to you every day, the aging that exists, contemplate it more and more frequently. For instance, we old people should think about when we were younger. What was that like? What was your body like when you were a teenager, a child? You have to think about those things. And now that you are old, what is your body like? The impermanence and uncertainty of your body, the pains and aches. You must think about these things. Now that you are at this stage, in the future, next month or next year, how will your aging increase exponentially? Your body's symptoms will increase exponentially as well. At 60, 70, 80, or 90 years of age, what is the body like? Look at the old people who aged before you. What were they like? How difficult did those old people have it? They couldn't walk. They couldn't sleep well. They ate and drank with difficulty. They couldn't hear, and the vision blurred. Everything is an inconvenience for old people. Think about this as much as possible. Don't just merely know it. Think about it until you're sick of it. It isn't normal. If you aren't sick of it yet, then keep thinking about it. 100 times, 1,000 times, countless times over the course of a day. Think about aging, illness, and death over the course of a single day 100 times, 1,000 times, so many times that you can't even try to count. Keep thinking about it. Sit and think about it. Walk and think about it. Think until you become sick of it. Until you fear it. Fear being born. Fear aging, illness, and death. Keep contemplating until this happens. Mental cultivation doesn't mean just merely knowing. It means making your mind afraid. Once it is afraid, there are many ways out. The way out is easy. It's easy to get out at that point. Suppose you are sleeping in the middle of the jungle. While you are asleep, you aren't afraid. You are indifferent. A person who is asleep isn't afraid. A ghost comes and yanks your leg, or a gongoi ghost comes to sit beside you. You aren't afraid. A tiger sits beside you. You aren't afraid. You are asleep. Once you wake up though, and hear the sound of the gongoi ghost screeching goi, or a tiger growling grrr, at that point you will be afraid. When fear arises like this, finding a way out of that fear is not a problem. It is easy as cake. It is super easy. There is no need to ask anyone at all about it. There is no need to ask anyone, where should I go to get away from the tiger? Where should I go to get away from the gongoi ghost? You don't need to ask anyone. You will get out on your own. The jungle is nothing to you. You will jump right over it, run straight through it. Thorns are nothing. Nothing will hinder your flight once you are set on getting out of there. This is someone who is to escape from fear. You don't need to ask anyone the way to go. You will know on your own which way to go. All you are going to do is go. You are not staying. Likewise, in practicing mental cultivation, if you use wisdom to contemplate often so that the mind feels these things very clearly, there is no need to ask anyone how to get the mind out of the wheel of rebirth. There is no need to ask anyone. You will know for yourself where to go. you will find your own way out. This is what mental cultivation is like for people who are to escape in this lifetime. It is not that they lie around like, aging is normal, death is normal. That is the way of the fool. Their wisdom is impotent. They are useless. But one who contemplates will not be this way. They will say the verses, just like others do. But when it comes to mental cultivation, when it comes to wisdom, they don't do this.